Breaking news now. 3 people have died and at least 8 others are injured after a mass shooting in North Carolina last night. Around 9:30 p.m., deputies were called to the American Fish Company in Southport. Just prior to this, a boat on the Cape Fear River passed by the company and its single occupant opened fire. Shortly after 10 p.m., the U.S. Coast Guard noticed a boat with a subject matching the shooter's description and detained him. Police say there is no credible threat to the public.
Banker and associate of convicted murderer Alec Murdaugh will spend at least 5 years in prison. Russell Lafitte pleaded guilty yesterday in Columbia to state financial charges. That includes criminal conspiracy and computer crimes. Prosecutors say the former Palmetto Bank CEO helped Murdaugh by steering millions of dollars, won for his clients, into Murdaugh's bank account. Lafitte is already in prison on federal charges.
We're learning more about that federal investigation into the former sheriff. We told you yesterday that he has agreed to plead guilty to 3 federal charges. 7 News' Ripley Simone sat down with the former federal prosecutor to break down what happens next.
Former Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright has agreed to plead guilty to 3 federal charges: conspiracy to commit theft concerning programs receiving federal funds, wire fraud conspiracy, and obtaining controlled substances by misrepresentation. Former federal prosecutor Sloan Ellis says Wright will first go to court to enter his guilty plea. It could be months later before a judge decides his sentencing.
Federal sentencing guidelines are going to dictate what his sentencing range is, but those guidelines are only advisory. So the judge will be able to go above or below those sentencing guidelines.
According to the plea agreement Wright signed, he agreed to pay back at least $440,000. Ellis notes in one part of the plea agreement, the government agreed to not charge Wright with the 4th federal crime.
The government specifically agrees pursuant to the terms of the plea agreement not to charge him with a separate federal crime that makes it illegal to possess a firearm if you're addicted to controlled substances. So that's a concession that the defense lawyers were able to get from the government.
Representatives from Spartanburg County provided a statement on the issue, saying throughout the year, the county has been working directly with law enforcement authorities as matters proceed through the federal judicial process.
The Department of Justice is the entity that prosecutes those public officials, and they do a very good job at it. And as you can see here, it's a very well investigated case. You can tell just by looking at the information how much information that the Department of Justice actually had. And it's clear from the information also that they had witnesses that were talking to the government about what was happening, what Sheriff Wright was alleged to have done.
Ellis says the sentencing can play out in many different ways, and Wright's lawyers are going to do what they can to keep him out of federal prison. Ripley Simone, 7 News.
Wright resigned in May, citing a health diagnosis as his reason. A Spartanburg man's behind bars accused of stealing thousands of dollars from a nursing home resident. Authorities arrested 65-year-old Gregory Lewis Drummond yesterday after they say they got word that Drummond withdrew over $274,000 from the victim's bank account last year. Investigators add that he did so by using forged documents. The victim is classified as a vulnerable adult under state law and lived in a nursing home during the alleged misconduct. Drummond is charged with exploiting a vulnerable adult and forgery. Piece of breaking news, an update for you. A former South Carolina lawmaker has agreed to plead guilty to charges involving child sex abuse material. Our State House reporter Caroline Yaffa has the latest.
A plea agreement has been reached in the child pornography case against R.J. May. If approved by the judge, May will plead guilty to 5 charges. May was charged with 10 counts of child sexual abuse material after investigators say they traced files shared on the app Kik through accounts using the names Joe Biden with 4N69 and Eric Rentling back to May's home internet and personal cell phone. He was set for trial October 9th, but if this plea is approved, that would change.
Anywhere from 90 to 95% of cases usually get plea bargains, so most cases don't actually go to trial. So him accepting a plea bargain is pretty normative, actually.
Under federal law, the judge can decide whether May's 5 sentences run at the same time or one after another.
I don't know what the sentencing guidelines are on that, but it ain't gonna be 5 years. Let's just be clear about that. I would be surprised if it's not in the double digits. By pleading guilty, the system does reward people for pleading guilty.
Typically what you see is when someone is entering an agreement, the agreement is trying to avoid what could have been the most severe sentence.
Attorney Bill Nettles says one of the biggest mistakes May has made since his arrest was the fact that he is representing himself in court.
There's literally no way he could try that case. And so once he made the decision to represent himself, I don't think there was any real plausible path forward for him but a guilty plea.
He says May had great public defenders at his disposal.
Top to bottom seems to be a little bit a problem for him, right? There's a certain amount of arrogance thinking you're going to get away with it. And there's a certain amount of arrogance thinking that someone who is not schooled in the law was the best choice to be his lawyer, that being himself.
The plea agreement also requires May to register as a sex offender for life, forfeit his electronic devices, and pay restitution to victims. In Columbia, Caroline Yaffa, 7 News.
A judge is expected to make a decision about the plea agreement on Monday afternoon in Columbia. Students in Spartanburg County say a new class in artificial intelligence is already helping shape their futures. Riverly Simone takes you to class to learn about this new AI program.
Students in the artificial intelligence class here at Daniel Morgan Technology Center are learning how AI can shape their future careers, finding work right here in South Carolina. David Thornton is helping students understand artificial intelligence.
A typical workflow for machine learning based on software development.
His class focuses on the different types of AI and how it can be applied to the workforce.
Entertainment, healthcare, agriculture, logistics, aerospace, manufacturing, all these are crucial to our economy here in South Carolina.
High school junior Carrick Wilkins II is working on how AI can help the entertainment industry.
We've been doing our own research, talking about the apps, talking about how people use them. Some people use it to say Tupac with Kendrick lyrics, others just to make their own music and say this theirs.
Student Caleb Easler is studying programming and the changes AI brings to that job market.
It's very interesting, and now you have to think, one day we might not need an actual programmer, but we still need someone to train the AI to write those programs automatically. So the job isn't going away, it's just becoming something new.
Thornton says whichever direction students take, as more companies use AI, data protection will become its own field.
As you know, cyber is kind of like that shell or that force shield, if you want to say, protection around the data that's being processed.
Which is something that interests high school junior Richard Ramos.
I want to know more because it's a forever thing. I feel like AI is always going to be here. You're always going to need a cybersecurity at somewhere, anywhere, at schools, companies.
This is the first year DMTC is offering AI courses. Leaders say as the industry grows, so will the program. In Spartanburg, Ripley Simone, 7 News.
The AI class at Daniel Morgan Technology Center takes students from both Broome and Spartanburg high schools.